Hello, everybody, and welcome to Virtual Trek Con. This is DS9's second generation panel with Malissa Longo, Andy Robinson, Cirroc Lofton, Max Grodenchik, and Hana Hatae. How's everybody doing?
Oh,
doing good.
Hi.
Doing good.
Happy to be with all you lovely, wonderful people.
So we made this panel.
Don't laugh at me.
He's already laughing at you?
Yeah, I have to start. No. Super excited. I'm actually glad that we're all able to meet together like this. Especially Max, you're coming from so far away. It's a long way. Thanks for being here. Thank you, Andrew Robinson, for being here.
Oh, always my pleasure. And it's always my pleasure to see your beautiful faces. It really is.
Awesome.
And that seeing that everybody's healthy as well. I mean, that's no mean feat.
Amen.
Amen.
Yeah. Melissa got the Captain Nog in the back. Hello. Nice.
It's our favorite graphic ever, by the way.
Yeah, it's a beauty. It really is a beauty.
Wait, Melissa, did you design that one?
No, I didn't. Can't take credit, but
Well, it's amazing either way.
lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this panel is for the characters that kind of grew up, or their characters grew throughout Deep Space Nine. You know, initially it was about Kira and Dax and Sisko. But then we had Molly O'Brien grow up before our eyes, and Aron Eisenberg growing up before our eyes. Actually, Nog, I should say. Cirroc Lofton, we have Garak that went from a simple tailor to a simple tailor that is now out saving Cardassia, and we got Rom that went all kinds of things. First, he was some guy's brother and some guy's dad, and then he became the Grand Negus, and before that, he was waste extraction.
Waste extraction.
Oh, God, I forgot about that.
Okay. So that's what this panel is about. You know, these really awesome characters that grew before our eyes for 7 years, and then some in books like A Stitch in Time, written by Andy Robinson, in fact. And I do remember reading another book. I don't remember what it was called, but it was about the world of Ferenginar after Deep Space Nine, and then the new Grand Negus with Rom and Chase, Lita, I should say. So,
yeah.
So first things first, Hana, Molly O'Brien, you know, 20 years after this has got to be like 30 years old. Where would you say she is in her life?
Personally, I think she would have taken a little bit of each from her parents. Like her mother was mother was a botanist, Keiko, if I'm not mistaken, right? So personally, I love plants myself, so I'm maybe just being selfish on that front, but I think she would, you know, potentially be in the engineer room like her father, but with a nice green thumb. I think that would be a really cool thing if Molly was like that, or if Molly did pursue that.
Yeah.
Cirroc, you think Jake Sisko is out still writing, or do you think he's had a change of career?
Well, I know that he's still writing. It's just, you know, what he's writing about, his life experiences, and he's been dealt a lot of tragedy in his character's life. So there's going to be a lot of perspective in dealing with pain and pain management as far as that. Also, with respect to Hana and Molly, you know, I spent a lot of time with your father on the show. And so I feel like that would have eventually led to us having some kind of friendship and being cool with each other.
More. I don't know.
You were
a little bit old.
I won't say that, but I did spend a lot of time with your father, as you know, him teaching me how to do his engineering, and I actually enjoy a lot of those scenes together because it showed that Jake did have a little bit of a an interest in the sciences and the different things that they do in Starfleet, even though he chose a different route.
Of course.
But of course, Max, Ram, and I, I don't know how much we'd be spending time together, but I do believe that, as the way things played out in this fictitious season 8, I believe that we would have a stronger bond of a shared kind of love for a person that we both lost.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. How do you feel about that, Max? I'm talking about.
Hey.
Hey. Sorry,
Wow.
I was saying, how do you feel about the interaction between Jake and Ram's character, having gone through what they basically showed us in the documentary, which is the fictional, first season 8 where Nog dies. I mean, how do you see our relationship growing from there? Because we didn't really share too much screen time together.
You were Nog's best friend. What do I see happening? I think it would draw us closer together. The fact that he's gone. I think that. I always thought that Ram and Lita go to Nagus Ram and Lita go to Ferenginar to put in the policies that the Zek believes in, and that's why he picked Ram to be Grand Nagus. And I think it's a struggle. I think it's a battle to do that. Just like here, when you want to get something done, and one party wants to get something done, they're fighting the other party. And I think it takes quite a while. I think there's a whole story there about how it might take quite a while for Ram to Grand Nagus Ram get enough political clout to be able to make real changes. And I think that might be something that Jake is reporting on. Jake could interview the Grand Nagus from anywhere, and I think that might be what happens. That's not bad.
That's not bad. I should write that down.
Cirroc says, we didn't know that Jake Sisko was a story stealer. He's like, let me write that down.
No, not me. You gotta go to the writers. For that.
Andy, now you did write a book about what happens after the Dominion Wars, and without getting too much into the book, it's called A Stitch in Time, and I think it's the best Star Trek book I've ever read. Hands down, honestly. And that was before I even knew that you had written it. I remember reading it many, many years ago and saying it's really great. And then my friend, I was like, you should read this. It's really good. He reads it, he gives it back to me. He says, wow, it's so good. And it was written by Garak. And I'm like, oh, I've had this book for a year and I had no idea. But anyway, do you want to give the people out there kind of the premise of it without getting too much into detail?
Well, I mean, the book is basically it's what happened. I mean, I just took off after how the series ended, and I was thinking of my parallel with what would it be like if you were a German who was an anti-Nazi who came back to, say, Berlin after the Second World War, and how do you start? The Stitch in Time comes from there's a Hebrew expression tikkun olam, which means it's healing the world. It's the concept of how do you heal a wounded world, which I think is pretty apt for where we're at now. I think we're so wounded right now. It's Jesus. I hope people are all pulling out their sewing kits and going to work.
Oh,
but
I know
anyway,
Melissa got all the
like
masks.
Garak did.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and that's always been an important concept for me. I mean, there has to be there's this other thing. I don't mean to get. I'm getting weird. I mean, I don't give it. I don't give a shit. I'm getting weird in my old age. It's just making, it's like there's another thing where there's this concept of the Lamed Vovnik, another Hebrew expression where I think there are 29 wise people in the world who are holding up the world. And that if these 29 people don't hold up the world, if any of them falter, and if they do falter and are not replaced, then the world ends. And it's like, and it comes from a book, beautiful book called The Last of the Just by Andre Schwartz-Bart. And so essentially all of this is to say that was the underpinning of the book. And essentially, writers like Una McCorkle and McCormick, they've now taken the Cardassian thing, further. And I don't even know what the hell has happened, really, other than now that I'm doing this thing with Sid, and there's this fellow Matthew Campbell who's writing these scripts that Cirroc will appear in next week.
Yes. Stay tuned for that.
Yeah. So I'm finding out stuff that's I had no idea. I knew that Garak was the Castellan, but that's not a word that I think I ever used. But the head of the Cardassian, whatever they call it,
Obsidian Order.
That's about it. The what?
Obsidian Order.
Well, he's that too. He's still
It's all over the place.
Once a spy, always a spy.
Now, by the way, we touched on it a little bit earlier, but guys, we will include in the description box below a website where people can sign to say we want Andrew Robinson to do the audio reading of this book, A Stitch in Time, which would just be amazing. It would give Andy something awesome and fun to do, some good work to do.
Yes,
and
he needs something awesome and fun.
And it would give us something awesome to listen to. I mean, it's just beautiful.
Thanks, Brian. Thank you for that.
No, but really, we really want it, and we'll include it in the description box below. You guys can check that out. Malissa, now I think we know what happens with Captain Nog. He becomes Captain Nog. I guess I gave that away. But what kind of captain, what kind of leader do you think he is?
I think he is a very moral leader in that he seeks the truth in everything that he does. And Aron actually talks to me about this, how he would have taken, it would be interesting to see how much he would have taken from Sisko, because he saw Sisko as a mentor, and how that would be married to his Ferengi side. So I think that he would be a wonderful captain, very thoughtful captain in the way he ran a ship.
I think so, especially because he seems like the kind of
Melissa,
guy that.
Go
ahead.
Melissa, Karina sends her love.
Oh yes, send my love to them too.
I will.
And speaking of that, Melissa, I don't really know if I told you, but you gave a wonderful service and tribute to Aron, and it was really well done. I enjoyed it a lot, and to hear everybody speak, especially you, Max, I thought you were one of the highlights of that service, and your words meant a lot to me. So thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Max. Thank you, everybody who was there and participated and helped make that such a great event.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
It was a celebration.
Definitely agree.
Yeah.
I would second or third or quarter, fourth that as well. It was amazing. Yeah, I did want to add on as well, on top of the amazing human that Aron Eisenberg it was and is in our minds, and how we've got about 30 or 40 videos dedicated to him, and we'll keep on counting those and keep on doing those. But on top of that, like, I do think that that's shown through on his character. And I do think that, as you said, he'd be a great captain, but also because he seems like he would always be looking out for the little guy, just like him in real life. because, you know, as Nog's character started off way down at the bottom, and he kind of flipped a switch and works his way up. So he probably would always give a chance to the guy or the girl that maybe necessarily wouldn't get a chance, you know, or give somebody a second chance that maybe other people might not have, right?
Right.
Yeah, well, you know, and I just want to say, so listening to Mr. Robinson and Max, and listening to your answers, one of the things that I gathered, even when you were answering Hana, you were mentioning, and I myself am guilty of this, mentioning your personal growth as a human being and what you have gone through in life and how your ideas and perspectives mold who you are, and how they would translate into the character that you would play. And I just wanted to make if that was something that you're conscious of, and say, well, you know, the more I understand about this and the world and things that I'm passionate about, because that's one thing I noticed with Aron. He was extremely passionate about the world and making changes. And I feel like he would translate those passions back to the character. And that's what I really want to ask you about, your personal passions and how they translate into how you would see the character going forward.
Yeah, that's a great thing to say, sir. Like, it really is. Because I mean, that's the thing that, for me, you know, all my life and my career as an actor, it's, you know, it's that's been about, you know, my passion. And, you know, you start off as a young guy. I start off as a young guy thinking, you know, I mean, you know, for whatever reasons, to become an actor, and, you know, there are a lot of the usual stuff. I mean, it's, you want to be seen, maybe you want to be celebrated, maybe you want to get girls, you know, make a few bucks and whatever. But that doesn't a career make. You know, the career comes out of the passion that you're talking about.
Yeah, of course. I feel like although characters are written a certain way, the actor that portrays that character brings in a specific aspect of themselves. You know, like, that's something that shows the characters, like, morals and values and whatnot, in a way. So
yeah, that will always bleed through. I mean, a person's character is like, man, it's more than just, you know, funny walks and funny talks. I mean, character is deep, and that bleeds through. And, you know, and I think that everybody who is on this show, this is the thing, had a real moral character,
right?
And that came through. I mean, Aron's humor, his humor, which was so beautiful, you know. I mean, and his innocence, but yet he was sharp as a tack, and didn't suffer fools. All that comes through. I mean, it's, you know, it's, we can't hide. I think some of us start off being actors who want to hide. And then the irony I found in doing Deep Space Nine is that, you know, the incredible irony was I put on the goddamn mask, and man, I felt as naked as a plucked jaybird. Honest to God, it was like,
that's pretty naked.
Yeah.
Yeah, Max, and I heard you saying along the same lines about, you know, Grand Nega's Rom trying to do the right thing and get the right support to make changes. And I feel like that comes from your own personal beliefs, you know, kind of infusing that into the character. Is that right? Or?
Anna, I agree with what everybody's saying. But for me, I think I think the writers have to find you. When they cast a show, Ira Bear told me this in the last few years while we were working on a documentary. When they cast a show, Rom was going to be the tough Ferengi, and Quark was going to be, bossed around by Rom. And they looked at it after a few episode or two, and they said, "No, we got this wrong. Max can't boss around Armin. It doesn't have that. It just doesn't have that in them." So I think the writers and Armin was much better at being bossy. And I think they find stuff in you, and they adjust you to. I'm trying to think if they do that to make it. It just makes more screen sense. It looks better on screen, and yeah, they give you. They find who you are, and they try to write to that.
No, that's beautiful, man.
That's one thing I feel that happened with Armin and with Quark and Rom.
I love that.
Yeah.
They have to find you.
I also do, but I do feel a great kinship with Rom. I mean, he's a better man than I am, but I am like him. He's a better man than I am, but he comes from me. So there's hope for me yet.
You are him and he is you.
Yeah, and I am the walrus. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody's a better man than you, Max. Come on. Cirroc and I talk about that a lot on our show, about the writing and how phenomenal it is, coupled with the incredible cast of actors that just blow us away. I mean, it's hard to decide what made Deep Space Nine so incredible. Is it the acting or is it the writing? But they're both head and shoulders above almost anything else. And we do notice over and over again how, like in the first season, the writers are writing the show. By the second and third season, the writers they're still writing it, but they're writing it adjusted to the actors. We do see that with Captain Sisko. Eventually they realize, look, this guy's not a commander, he's a captain. We can let him grow out his goatee. We can let him shave his head. We can let him be a captain. We can let him be a little tougher, a little more brooding. Same thing with Max and Rom, and same thing with Armin and Quark. They kind of start adjusting to, as you say, what makes sense, what makes screen sense. And we see it all over the place on Deep Space Nine, especially. So that's a testament to the actors almost rewriting the script. They say like the writers write it and then it gets rewritten a lot of times by the editors. But in this case, the actors and their delivery almost rewrite it, right?
Well, I think that's always the case with successful shows. There are shows in which, you can see that, speaking personally, I've been in shows where, the writers just weren't interested in finding out me. They just, that wasn't their thing. They had their image, they had their version of who I was supposed to be. And that's what they wanted. And that's a lot less interesting than what Max just said about how they found us. And that makes for the most exciting performance. And also, then real stuff comes in to the drama.
Hey, Andy, can I ask you actually, when you first got the job, and I feel like you may have been asked this question before, because it is a question we all want to know the answer to. What did you think? Did you think, okay, this is going to be, 1 or 2 days. I'm going to work a few times this year. Did you think, hey, this has potential to be a really big job? Or, what did you think? And by the second and third time you worked, did you have that feeling that a lot of actors think, which is, okay, this is the last time I'm going to work on the show. This was the one. We had a good run, but this was the last one.
You know, I mean, the very first thing is, okay, great, I can pay the rent this month, you know, and that's fine. And then as soon as it ended, and it was fun, it was a weird experience, but it ended up being a lot of fun because you know, the makeup and all of that stuff, I've gone through that. And then when it was over, it was over. And it was almost a year before I was called back. And I had, you know, nobody said anything about me coming back. So when I was called back, that was, you know, that it was great because I could pay the rent again, and the bills. But then in the fourth time they called me back was an episode called The Wire.
Yes.
And that was in a sense that was major for me, because it was one of the most difficult challenges I had ever had as an actor, and it turned out to be one of the things I'm most proud of in my career. That performance. I've never done better work. And after that episode, I thought, okay, and that's when I knew that I would be called back again.
Mm-hmm. Right. Max, what about you?
Excellent work too, by the way, that Wire episode. I mean, it's ingrained in my head how many different facets of that character and how many lies and the way you told them. It was just so beautifully, the storytelling was just beautiful.
Thanks, man. But you know, that's a gift. I mean, they gave me a gift on that one.
Mm.
I mean, you know, you can count on one hand the number of times you get a character and a chance to do that.
Mm.
You know, Cirroc, as soon as you said the word lies, you know, the line that popped in our heads was especially the lies. As soon as you said that, I'm like, nobody's going to say it. Hey, so Max, when you first got cast, did you think this was something that had the possibility of lasting 7 years, or did you think it was going to be a little bit here and there, or maybe not at all?
No, I would never think that it would go, you know, if they gave me an episode, I would think that's it, you know. And then if they gave me another episode, I said, well, now I've had 2. That's very nice. That's it. Yeah. And that would go on like that. And at the end of the season, I would say to Armin, I hope I'm coming back next season. And he would laugh. He'd go, Max, you're coming back. And then I went that way for the 2nd season and the 3rd season and the 4th season. Same exact thing, Max, you're coming back. And then maybe it was the 5th season. I said, you know, I said to Armin, you know, I think I'm coming back next year.
Took you long enough.
So yeah, it took me long enough. So, I never wanted to. Don't want to be too optimistic, you know. Maybe I felt it was jinxing me to think otherwise. So, Andy, may I ask you, did you audition or did they call you?
Oh,
they say we want Andy Robinson.
They put my ass through, I mean, so many auditions. I mean, when I was up for Odo, I went up there 3 times. And then what really pissed me off was that they, you know, it didn't piss me off that Renee got it. I was disappointed, but you know, Renee was Renee, and he was beautiful. But then what pissed me off was that when they called me back to read for Garak, that's, you know, and then my ego.
Yeah, I was just here.
My ego. No, I'm not going back there. I'm not going back there. They can go stuff it if they want me, make an offer. And then Irene said, you know, we have bills to pay, and the phone is not ringing off the hook. Okay, all right, I'll go. You know, honestly, I did not want to go back. Thank God I did.
Well, thank you, Irene.
Yeah, thanks, Irene.
I know Aaron had some of those same fears of whether or not he was going to get called back, and the time that he was especially fearful is when he learned that he was going to join Starfleet. Nog was going to join Starfleet. He's like, oh, that's it. I'm done. I'm off the show. And they took him aside and they're like, no, if anything, it means you're going to be on it more. And he's like, Oh. So yes, he had those same fears.
My understanding is he went to Rick Berman's office. Rick had heard that he was feeling he wasn't going to be on the show anymore. And Rick got him down to his office and said, I understand, you don't think you're going to be working much longer, but trust me, you're going to be working more than you ever have.
Right.
So
yeah.
that's, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
I
I feel like
definitely
that-
did, yeah.
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 That's right.
I feel like they used that fear. That fear was always there. I don't remember going into a break without thinking that I wouldn't be called back either. I feel like that was the fear that was always looming, and that's the way the studios kind of keep the actors on edge and ready to go, because they don't have a comfort zone of knowing, oh, you're going to be here for 5 years. So they kind of want that edge, and especially when it comes to contract negotiations and things of that nature. So I feel like there was always a little bit of uncertainty. And I remember myself asking Avery, you think I'll be back? So I think that's just something that they use as a tactic to kind of keep us from asking for or demanding too many things.
Mm-hmm.
Like a raise.
Mm-hmm.
Like a raise.
Or maybe they were just trying to make you perform your best every single time. Like, I got to do this or I'm not going to be back on. I got to do the best I can. I didn't have that fear. I was too young to even know.
Fear is a great motivator.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hana, I was going to ask you. I was going to say, did you feel that every year you're like 4 years old and you're like, I wonder, are they going to bring me back?
I find that amazing, though, Cirroc. Because now, of course, who knows then what we were feeling, but now, you and the Sisko family. That was the heart of the show. The fact. For me, any show that has a family and is really committed to showing that family truly is like always the most interesting.
Yeah, in hindsight, I'm really glad that we were able to get that done. It shows a Black family, especially, in a positive light.
Yep.
And it's it's a testament to the writers and what Avery and I were able to get done. But I just feel really blessed that we slid that in the window of television history and were able to put on this positive image of educated and intellectual or articulate people that are going through real problems and growing together as a parent-child relationship. Yeah. And I think that's one of the beauties of this show is the idea of family and the extension of it to friends and the community that we create when we have that kind of a synergy.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And only right now are TV shows and movies finally kind of catching up with that. You guys were doing this since 92, 28 years ago. And Cirroc not just did you guys grow together as a family, but it was always shown in a positive light. And your relationship with your father was always like a rock. It was a stone cold lock. You guys would have disagreements, like when you were dating a 40-year-old Dabo girl or whatever, and you were 12 or whatever it was. But, you always got the kiss on the head. You always got, the high five or the hug. You always got the mussing of the hair, and it showed that like there was always that great, father-son dynamic, even with a deceased mother. And there, by all accounts, you had a great relationship with your mother as well, and so did he. And so it just showed nothing but a positive light on that family dynamic.
And particularly in the Black community, there is an absence of the father in the household. There is a disconnect there. We have a problem in the Black community with absent fathers, and for whatever reason they're absent, be it in jail or just separated from the family. But there's a bunch of reasons. But we need that kind of visual imagery in order for us to see that the presence of a father really goes a long way as far as developing Black men in this country. And that's one of the things that's important about what we did, is we showed the presence of a father in the household and the effects thereof. Mm-hmm. So, I just feel like it's necessary for all the young children out there to be able to have positive role models and positive examples. But remember also what we did in the show was, just like in our life, it takes the village. So we are all not just raised by our families, we're also raised by the village or the community that we're in and the friendships that we build. So the friendships that I had with people, the way that everybody on the station collectively raised me in different ways, making sure that I got out of trouble when I was doing something, or having a conversation with me in a moment where I needed somebody to be there. Those kinds of things matter in the development of a person too. And DS9 did a great job of incorporating those conversations, incorporating those connections in between people. So I feel like those are the other things that we can be proud of as far as looking back and saying, yes, we tackled these issues of how community works together, how we relate to each other, and how we can work to be better and do better.
Mm. Good.
Who wants to follow that? That's a tough act to follow there. Right on. No, but that's what I love so much about working with Cirroc, is he's always so thoughtful and well-spoken and intelligent, and he's always bringing in a new perspective, at least for me, that, and there's something really uniquely great about people that realize the importance of things. A lot of us, it's too easy for us to just, we're kind of spoiled in this country a lot of times, and Max is like, you guys are, I'm in Austria, but Cirroc, you always bring that gratitude and that appreciation, that perspective that we all need. So I appreciate that. It did make me think though, Cirroc, we know that the person that really brought you under his wing was Avery, throughout this whole thing. And also to a second degree, I would think it was Aron as well. But what about the rest of you? Andy, was there somebody that kind of, if you needed advice or you kind of turned to and said, am I saying this line right? Was there somebody that you would kind of have as a sounding board, or somebody that helped you through it?
Not there. I mean, talking about Avery is a guy that I came to not only respect but love because of what Cirroc was just saying. Avery was on a mission, and it wasn't a mission to further his ego or his brand or any of that bullshit. I mean, everything from shaving the head and getting the goatee, and the fight that he had with that was like, there was a fight that he had to do, because, let's be real here, I mean, racism is everywhere, and it has been throughout the entertainment business. And you just, because you cast a Black man to be the star of a series, a lot of people think, well, I've done my job. That's great. Now look at me. Aren't I a great liberal and a progressive? Well, that's just the beginning. That's just the beginning. What do you do with this Black man? And then if you give this Black man a family on this show, what do you do then? And Avery made sure that they did the right thing, always. But in terms of everybody on this show I had, genuinely enormous respect for. Everybody on this show, it was like this. This is why the show, people say, well, when I directed a couple of Voyagers and what would the cast of Voyager? Well, the cast of Voyager or Next Generation, I think they probably had more fun than we did. I think there were more laughs, and whatever. We were kind of a serious lot, but it comes, I think Nana said it. It comes from the guy who's in the number one position. And so it was like not that he turned us all into, you know, these dour Puritan people, but the thing is that we focused, and we focused on why we were there and what we were doing there.
Yep.
Seems like you took it very seriously, and it obviously shows in the product.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not a walk in the woods. Acting is not, you know, an innocent enterprise. It's dangerous. It can be dangerous, you know, because what is it that we're revealing? What is it that we're concealing? You know, and if we are, you know, if it's not a role like Garak where the concealment is built into the character, if you're just there concealing who you are, then it's like it's a lie. It's a lie. And I think one of the things that really blew my mind about Deep Space Nine, because I was not into science fiction. I didn't know Cardassian from an egg salad sandwich. I didn't know anything about Star Trek. I didn't give a shit about Star Trek. I thought, you know, because I'm working off of the original one, because they were in these funny costumes, and there was Shatner walking around like, you know, the tin soldier, and this guy with pointed ears, and I thought, oh, Jesus, what is this? You know, it blew me away when I found out what a serious intent it had, and that it allowed the process to, if you hire a black captain, the process, and then you get a guy like Ira Bear, who's he's in the moment. He's in the moment. He knows what's going on. And so the progress that the stories and the characters made during thing, I mean, it was as serious as anything I've ever been involved with.
High praise.
You know, and I want to just say that my friend agrees too.
You've got your own mini-me.
Oh, I've got my own.
That's adorable.
Oh, wow.
Max, how do you feel about egg salads?
Did you say egg salad?
No,
there was a movie called The Fortune Cookie. Wasn't that about an egg salad recipe? Or no?
I don't know.
Never mind. Oh, never mind.
I know there was a movie called Big Trouble Little China that had Egg Chen was a character in it.
Is egg salad a boom code word?
No,
Zoom.
sorry.
I said boom.
It's a boom code word.
Egg salad might mean, yeah. Well,
I
don't know.
love you, Max.
It
Oh, God.
By the way, the Deep Space Nine Rat Pack, if anybody has not seen the Rat Pack, Max Grodenchik, you have whipped these guys into shape. So, well, I don't think you've whipped them, but you do most of the writing. I could just imagine him going, it's a B flat, but it's really incredible. What was the genesis of that idea? Did you just always kind of play a little music with your pals and you just wanted to give it a shot?
Oh, it's a story, but basically in the 5th and 6th grade, the kids in my class got rewarded for being clever with words, to use a West Wing expression. I was, they were doing these parodies. They just, some event would happen and they make a parody out of it. And I was jealous that they got praise from the teacher. So I started to do what they were doing. That's and the Rat Pack guys, there's so much talent on that stage when we're working with Casey Biggs and Vaughn Armstrong, and Ethan Phillips and Armin Shimmerman, and I'm missing somebody, and I'm
Jeff.
In the car going home. No, there is no car going home.
Jeff
Combs. Yeah, talk about talent. Jeff Combs. It's we have a wonderful, wonderful group of people, and yeah, we're just lucky. We're just lucky. Yeah.
You've also
I was
had.
going to say, you were asking about. He asked, I forgot where Andy's question started. It was about, do you have someone to, if you want to change a line, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, first of all, very difficult to change a line on any Star Trek show. They don't want you to miss a word. And I think that's probably started with Roddenberry, who wanted to, his way of honoring the writer. So I would go to the script supervisor and I would say, I don't understand this line. And she would call the office and they would get back to me. This is one thing I loved about the writers. They would get back to me. It was important to them to hear my concerns. They would get back to me and say, this is why we have that line there written as it is. And that happened about 3 or 4 times, 5 times. And then one time they said, you're right, Max, that line is a typo. It doesn't make any sense.
Wow.
So say what you want to say. So that's all I'll say about that. Okay.
Hana, did you have a favorite line that Molly said? Was it no?
What's that? Like, I want my mommy. That was a good one, even though, yeah, I mean, it was hard because, you know, she was my mom, or she was Molly's mom, just a younger version, and Molly didn't understand. I mean, she was so young, she had no idea what was going on, and even if they explained it to her, that's just not possible for her to understand and comprehend. So yeah, I think that was definitely one of my favorites. Or actually, though, another one is, I have talked about this before, but in If Wishes Were Horses,
right,
when I walk out and I'm like, he's in my room, and they don't believe me. They're like, what the hell is she talking about, right? And they go in, and yeah, that was a good one. Also because it was like also sheer terror. Like, that was a good line, and they did a good job at scaring the F out of me. I don't know how to say it without cussing. But yeah, that was a good one for sure.
It must be so strange watching yourself as a kid on
It's
TV
super
now.
weird. Yeah, it's super weird, but it's fun at the same time.
How many years had it been since you stopped working on the show, and then I saw you at that first convention that you did? Like,
I think that was 15 years.
So there was 15-year break where no Star Trek was mentioned, right?
No Star Trek, no nothing, no acting at all. After Star Trek ended, I just stopped acting to just be a kid, live my life, and not be one of those kids that was like, okay, I'm gonna, keep doing all this acting and then get into drugs and go to rehab and all that stuff. I wanted to enjoy my life, But yeah, it had been a long time.
So 15 years later, and then they hit you out of the blue, like, hey, you want to do Star Trek convention?
Like, I don't know how they found me. They actually contacted my brother at first. And were like, hey, you're Hana's brother, right? Like, we think she would be, interested in doing this. Let us know. And of course, I was terrified to go at first, like terrified and excited at the same time, because I didn't know what to expect. But it's every convention I've been to has been so much fun, such an enlightening experience, and being able to see how big of an impact Star Trek has made in the world. And even my character, even Molly, as, not a full-time character, just a part-time role, the fact that she made an impact on some people, like people named their children after Molly, and that blew me away. It's amazing. In that time.
Let's also take a moment to acknowledge another thing that Deep Space Nine did with regards to Molly and the O'Briens. That's a multiracial couple there.
Yeah,
28 years ago.
That was a big deal back then,
absolutely.
for sure.
Right. With at a time when there weren't really representations of Asian Americans on television, so they actually took it. They just kept taking more and more risks and weren't afraid to challenge the status quo on the show. And that's just a testament to the producers and the willingness of Paramount, CBS at the time to try something new and different.
Exactly, and I loved just Deep Space Nine in general has that whole family. They brought in a bunch of families, which I think a lot of the other Star Trek series did not. You know, like we had Max and Rom, we had Jake and
Nog.
like, you know, like, well, Jake and Nog is best friends.
Jake
but,
and
know,
Captain Sisko. Yeah,
Captain Sisko, and then the O'Briens, and I'm probably missing something else, but there was a lot of families that, you know, hadn't been portrayed like in any other series. But I guess it was also because we were on our own, you know, little ship that we didn't really go on adventures a lot. It wasn't like, I don't know how to say it, but I just loved how they brought the family aspect to it, as opposed to just like, oh, we're going on missions and gonna figure out what's going on here and kill different alien species or whatever and whatnot. Yeah. But I love that about that Deep Space Nine, that they did that.
Still to this day, 8 series in total, and yours is the only one that is actually about family.
That's amazing.
Malissa, when Aron would look back, because I know he watched Deep Space Nine, and he would watch his scenes and probably rewind and rewatch. How did he feel when he would rewatch himself? I know he was hypercritical. So was he, it seems like he would be just really excited about the good stuff he did, but then really like nitpicking tiny little things he wished he had done differently, or am I getting that wrong?
No, you're pretty close to being right on the money. He didn't really start watching the show until the 7th Rule started and you all started watching it together. But sometimes I would watch the show and then one of his scenes would come up and he'd be like, oh my gosh, I remember that. And then I did this and this. And there was one scene and I can't remember which one it was, but he was like, I hate what I did there. And he's like, did you see it? Did you see it? And I'm like, no, it was great. What are you talking about? So he was his own worst critic. But he was interested in watching the scenes too, because he wanted to learn from what he did in the past and maybe get an inkling as to the choices that he made and why he made them in that scene. But it was, I think for him, a trip down memory lane and bringing him back to that moment in time. Like with the self-sealing stem bolts scene. And, you know, how many millions of takes that you guys had to do. And, but yeah, I think he was more enjoyed watching them because of the nostalgia of it. Yeah. And he was pleasantly surprised when he did start watching the show. He's like, wow, this is actually a really good show.
What a relief.
Yeah.
I remember, when we were doing the What We Left Behind documentary, Ira sat me down with the interview and they brought an iPad. I don't know if they did this for you guys, but they brought an iPad and said, look at this scene and just watch it. And it was really the first time I'd really seen, that scene in Star Trek Deep Space Nine in such a long time. So I remember looking at it and just saying, wow, okay, I remember that day, that moment, this scene being on the set. And that actually was the beginning of the spark of like just wanting to look at stuff again. But this definitely came from Aron and this idea of doing this show. The podcast is why I really have been now watching it. And I'm eager to watch the next episodes and find out what happens next and when the Dominion War is going to start and how it's going to start and who's going to be involved. So, I feel like a fan now too, which is pretty amazing.
Selfish. No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you, Hana.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Hana likes to keep people honest around here.
Do what I can. Playing my part, you know.
No, it was fun to watch those episodes and see those scenes. Even some of the outtakes that they have, and I know they have tons of material that we haven't seen yet, but you know, the outtakes, the stuff that was deleted, or not deleted, but not printed. One day it'll come out.
Well, and yeah, and
Definitely
also,
Max says, "I hope not."
also, Aaron mentioned during the scenes that he would watch, he would also bring up the rehearsals at Armin's house with Rom and with Armin and Max, and how much that time meant to him as well, and how it really felt like a family unit between the Ferengi. And I think he was very, very honored to have that gift as well, is having you, Max, and Armin as part of his family. So
So one final question for everybody. This one's going to be a toughie. We'll start with Andy. Is there one part of you as Andy Robinson that you hope shines through the legacy of Garak?
Well, you know, I mean, I just hope I've made people better liars. Because the level of lying these days is really incredibly poor.
The bar is low.
Yeah.
What about you, Max? Is there a part of you that you hope shines through in your portrayal of Rom?
I would say, I said before, Ron was a better person than I am, and I'm trying to catch up to him. And I think he just had a really, it's corny, but I think he had a really good heart. His heart embraced more than mine can. And I think, I think part of my responsibility is to try to catch up to him, try to make my heart as big as his, even if I could never reach it. At least make the effort to do that and grow, have my heart, Max's heart, grow into something closer to what Rom's is. I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah.
You know, actually, very quickly, in the past, we've kind of talked about, you know, our favorite Star Trek dads, and I mentioned you as one of, if not my favorite Star Trek dad, because you did something that I don't know if any of the other fathers did on Star Trek, which was you allowed your child to teach you to grow. You allowed your child to change you, and that does show that big heart, that big openness, that open-mindedness that you taught him, but you let him change you as well.
That's not unlike what Aaron and I had. It went both ways. He talked to me about being a father and what he thought was one right way to do that, and I'll leave it at that. But yeah, it's not unlike us, you know, the actors under the mask. Thanks for that.
Thank you. He gave us 7 years of that. Cirroc, same question. Is there a part of 15 and 18-year-old Cirroc Lofton that you hope shines through Jake Sisko's legacy?
Yeah, you know, just his good spirits. I hope that his positive attitude and good spirits is what resonates. you know, the unlikely friendships and the loving spirits.
Definitely have that. All right, Hana, the reason I said this was going to be a tough question was because I was thinking of you. It's going to be tough for you to say, yeah, 5-year-old me, I really think, I hope I inspired people. But if you got an answer, we'd love to.
Well, yeah, actually, family has always and still is the most important thing in my life. Like my connections with them and my love for them and my willingness to do whatever I can to help and or please them in everything, you know. I think it kind of shows in Molly's character. You know, she has her love for her little brother Kiriyoshi, and you can see the love of her for her father and mother. And I hope that, even though I was very young then when I was filming, I hope that, you know, people were able to see that.
Nice. Malissa, same question about Aron. What you think, you hope that really shines through as far as Aron as a person into Nog the character?
I think there's so much of Aron that shines through Nog. His work ethic, his passion for life, his desire to better himself, make him a better being, a better person. And I think all of that shines through Nog, and his openness to learning and challenging himself and seeking truth in life, and how he can help the people around him grow as well.
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
Well, I think we did it, you guys. We've had some laughs. We've had some cries. We've had egg salad.
I love
by the way,
egg
Rom, the only
salad.
reason, or Max, the only reason we said egg salad was because Andy said something like, I didn't know him from egg salad or something like that. It really wasn't. I wasn't very funny there, and I apologize. Still not.
Apology accepted. Apology accepted.
Great. Well, thank you all very much for joining us. Max, we really do appreciate it. We know that you're calling in all the way from Austria. Andy, we really appreciate you. Molly, Hana, from San Francisco. The rest of us are enjoying the fireworks in LA still and forever. But we really appreciate you guys taking the time.
Thank you, Ryan. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
And it's a pleasure being with you guys. I love you all.
I
Thank you
can't
very much
believe we're
for
now
that.
walking on a door and all seeing each other, live. That would be nice.
It would.
Yeah. Anyway.
Soon, maybe in 2 or 3 years. It'll happen.
Maybe in a few months, maybe in December.
Hopefully.
We'll see what happens.
I know, fingers crossed.
Yeah, we'll have a vaccine by October, November.
Mm-hmm.
All
We'll
right.
have all our Star Trek masks on, you know. It'll be great.
All right.
Now I want to see if I could see Cirroc. I was afraid to slide this. Holy cow! I was missing out on this screen.
See?
I told you can slide over. Go back and
Yeah,
forth.
but I didn't want to. I thought I might just turn the whole thing upside down.
Mess the
Hold
whole
on,
thing up.
don't move.
And you
Don't
disappear.
Don't move, Cirroc. Stay right there.
All right. I'll
That's
stay
so
right here.
easy. You were right. You were right. Yeah. Oh, you can't, Cirroc. You can't see him. You, Cirroc, were right.
Yeah,
Funny.
I was.
Okay, you guys look good. You have your own little private area there. Yeah.
Yeah, we have our own screen. Yes.
Okay.
My
Great.
cheeks are hurting from
Very good to
smiling.
see you.
I'm glad that we
too.
can still get together and make it through
You
these
too.
trying times right now. So everybody stay healthy,
Amen.
Yes.
and just stay healthy so we can get together one day and give each other big hugs or something.
Mm-hmm. I'm very much looking forward to that.
Absolutely.
Very
I'll see
needed.
you Tuesday, Cirroc.
Yes, and take care of your families. I'm sorry, what was that?
I'll see you on Tuesday.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you,
Awesome.
guys.
Great. Thank you very
Lisa.
much. And for everybody at home, be sure to open the description box of this video to check out all the wonderful charities that these excellent people would like to promote and to, sign that thing. Let's get Andy Robinson some work. Give him something to do, right?
Andy,
It will be the most glorious thing of 2020. I mean, the bar is set pretty low, but
tin cup, no.
thanks very much, guys. We'll see you on the next video.